Alrighty, folks. Welcome back and happy Tuesday. Justin Trudeau's resignation has sent shock waves through the geopolitical world, although it is certainly safe to say that nobody is feeling it right now more than Canada. Some Canadians are cheering and celebrating. However, others, mainly his political peers, those leftist nut jobs, seem to be coming unglued. Let's check in on our northern neighbors who are now threatening. Some of them are threatening to take a few of our 50 states. Yeah, they want ours.
Hey, Donald, have we got a deal for you? You think we want to be the 51st state? Nah, but maybe California would like to be the 11th province. How about it? California, Oregon, Washington, you've got geography in common with us. And not only that, we've already got a carbon trading system between California and Quebec. We've got some strong alliances on our west coast from British Columbia. There's been a lot of academic papers on the idea of Cascadia. So California, Governor Newsom, and Washington State, Jay Inslee, and newly elected Governor of Oregon, Tina Kotek. How about it? Want to put a referendum to your citizens? Because this is what you deal. Have we got a deal for you? This is what you get. Free health care.
Nah, we're going to cut out of that because I couldn't stand listening to that nut job any longer. If you're on radio, there's some chick who's just reading a list of things, and she's not reading them very well. I think they need to work on their English up in Canada. Respectfully and sincerely, lady, nobody in the United States wants to live under Canadian rule, and anyone who did probably has already left or is, like you say, is living in California already. We don't even consider them a state, some of us. It's usually concerning when foreign politicians make such bold statements about taking U.S. territory, but coming from Canada, without a party leader, without a majority leader, I wouldn't lose much sleep. Now, Canada, you want to take California, maybe that's something we could talk about. We could make a deal here, perhaps. I'd call that addition by subtraction for the United States. In fact, California would probably fit right in. They've already been completely radicalized, but I urge you to be careful what you wish for. You take California, you're also taking all of its poverty, all of its crime, all of its homelessness, all of its drug problems. We got plenty more to discuss, so always let's react. And as Canada spirals out of control, Donald Trump has his sights set on a new prize, Greenland.
What happened to Greenland? My son, and he's a real hunter, fisherman, and all the things that you love. And I thought it'd be great to go up there with his two very talented friends and the other group, a lot of other people. So I just want to say that it's a very special place. It needs security for itself, but it also needs security very much for the world. The location really, you see the people and the ships sailing around, and they're not the right ships, and they're not the ships you want to know about. So we need security, and our country needs it, and the whole world needs it.
Yes.
You're so strategically located. Yeah. So it's really imperative.
You are right.
I want to thank everybody.
You guys like that, right?
All right, for those of you listening on radio, that was Don Jr. in Greenland with Charlie Kirk and also Sergio Gore, another close advisor to President Trump and friend of Jr. and Kirk. And they were in a group in Greenland, and Don Jr. had his phone out talking to a group of people from Greenland. That was pretty cool. The president makes a very compelling case and dropped a classic line when he emphasized the Greenland's ideal location. It may seem crazy, but think about it. We already have a massive military base in Greenland, and it's absolutely loaded with valuable natural resources, Greenland is, and minerals, by the way. And we know Trump wants Arctic territory. I wouldn't be shocked at all to see this thing actually happen. Moving back to the United States, I want to remind you about the dangers of listening to little whiny TikTok liberal fools. Here's one who actually watched the election certification yesterday and still thinks that Trump isn't going to make it to the Oval Office on January 20th.
So that just happened. Congress just certified the election of Donald Trump as president. That was hard to watch. My heart, my stomach, everything sank when not a single person objected. But it's not January 20th yet. One of the first things that I did after the congressional meeting ended was go and check what the creators that I get my information from think about all of this. And one of the accounts that I follow, Spirituality with Sam, who I will tag right here, posted a video just this morning about how her opinions about how Donald Trump won't take office again haven't changed. Sam is a psychic, and for weeks now, she has been saying that Donald Trump will not be president again.
Okay, so Sam, the TikTok psychic, says Trump's not going to take office. Okay, TikTokers. Well, there you have it, folks. Some pretend internet psychics with mythological powers said on TikTok that Trump will never be president again. Ooh, ooh, ooh. We should all probably get ready to be disappointed in 13 days when Trump doesn't show up. Wrong. Can you imagine if anyone actually listened to these clowns? Or better yet, could you imagine if any of these sensitive, deranged toddlers acting like adults ever found their way into leadership roles? That's why I opened the show basically offering California. It's a leadership to Canada. It's an offer. We'll make an offering. California would probably settle in quite nicely across the northern border. They'd fit right in. They're easily the wokest of our 50 states, probably won't be able to stomach the sweeping changes that are coming from our country starting January 20th. I wonder how pretty boy Gavin Newsom feels about the movement away from DEI. It probably keeps him up at night, which means this next headline surely has him sick to his stomach. And I'm reading, McDonald's is the latest company to roll back diversity goals. Ouch. Well, here's the thing. McDonald's made its money selling French fries and cheeseburgers, not catering to radical leftists about who they hire. I find McDonald's past 12 months very interesting, right? They came out and said they don't endorse political candidates. Okay, cool, which is totally fine. You're a fast food restaurant. No one gives a damn about your politics to begin with. They want to know how much your freaking Big Macs cost. But then they let Donald Trump hop in the drive-thru and serve up smiles for the day in Pennsylvania. And while this certainly wasn't an endorsement, it was a key humanizing moment in what will ultimately be remembered as the best political campaign in American history. Boom. And I want to move on to our good friends over at The View. Some of the most radical, spiteful, anti-American women on the planet. These ladies hate our country more than our adversaries hates us. And proved once again yesterday on their favorite day, January 6th.
I just remember after January 6th, you had someone like Mitch McConnell placing the blame on January 6th where it belonged, squarely on Donald Trump's shoulders. And then you started seeing people backtrack that and losing their moral center. You had Condoleezza Rice, I believe, on this very show saying, you know, we need to move on from January 6th. I say no. You don't move on because January 6th was an atrocity. It was one of the worst moments in American history. And when you think about the worst moments in American history, you know, like World War II, things that happened, you know, like the Holocaust, chattel slavery, we need to never forget because past becomes prologue if you forget and erase.
This clown, Sunny Hostin, now she's a lawyer. She's been there a long time. Listen, I was on The View a couple of times. I went there one time, and I knew they were going to be hostile because I'm pro-Trump, and this was right in the middle of Trump's first presidency. And so I brought 4 roses out to the ladies, 4 or 5. I can't remember how many ladies. I think it was 5. Anyway, I brought 5 roses out to the ladies. Very nice. They were in that. Whoopi was nice to me. Whatever. We had a heated discussion about Trump and MAGA and all that stuff. But that Hostin, that bitch right there, she couldn't put it down. She just couldn't let it down. She was going at me with fangs, and we fought. But for her to compare January 6th 4 years ago to the Holocaust, to world wars, to slavery. Are you nuts, lady? Are you crazy? Let it go. This toxic rhetoric is nothing new from the View program, but there's something amazing that no longer exists when it comes to Sunny Hostin's deranged rants influence. It's 2025. Nobody wants to hear your take about January 6th 4 years ago. 2021. It's been 4 freaking years. In that time, your guy Joe Biden, who just freed 11 of the most dangerous terrorists known to man, including some with al-Qaeda ties, nearly ran America into the ground off the map. Was 9/11 You don't think 9/11 was worse than January 6th? 3,129 of my colleagues died that day. Was it not worse? Are you nuts? January 6th was worse than that, Sonny? I certainly think you're losing your mind. Maybe lead your show with some real news instead of your usual opinion BS. Besides, the misinformation campaign that you thought would beat Trump already came up short. I say, give up. Give it all up. Give that bit up, because that has to be an act. You can't be that dumb. On that note, let's move right along. Yesterday, I showed you all a clip from the Golden Globes. Well, we're showing a clip of the man, the dude in a black dress, low plunging black dress with a full beard. Well, that freak was happily prancing around in a dress and heels, desperately trying to grab the attention of anyone who would validate his bizarre and concerning lifestyle. Ironically enough, this dude right here is actually Dylan Mulvaney's hairdresser. What a small world. Dylan Mulvaney is the one who tanked Bud Light 2 years ago. Anyway, he got the public attention that he so clearly craved after his on-camera appearances at the Golden Globes. Again, the public gave him exactly what he asked for. I guess he got a little more feedback when he could have ever hoped for, more so, because in typical liberal fashion, he took to social media and posted a little rant about some of the online comments he was seeing.
Finish the carpet, changing the hair for the after parties, watching the Globes. What a fun night. I'm not gonna lie, the extreme transphobic comments in the Glambot post and the Good Morning America post are kind of unsettling. Your friends and family feel way too comfortable being wildly transphobic on Instagram. You should probably talk to them about that. I'm gonna go back to watching the Globes now.
Well, unsettling, a little bit unsettling. I'll tell you what's unsettling: a 6-foot dude in heels, skipping around in makeup and a dress, a grown-ass man begging for your attention, and then bitching and moaning on Instagram because the entire internet does not embrace your weird-ass lifestyle. Well, for me, that's unsettling. Sorry. And by the way, brother, shave that beard if you're gonna pretend to be a woman. At least put your best foot forward in trying to sell the act. Your buddy Dylan Mulvaney had no problem breaking out the razor when he absolutely sank Bud Light. All right, folks. Again, talking about Goya. Goya Foods, our sponsor, yes, but also a great food company. You got to try the rice and beans. Like I said yesterday, I just tried their hearts of palm for a salad that my wife forced me to make, but it was fantastic. Goya, what a great company. In 2021, Goya launched Goya Cares, a global initiative to protect children and educate children on mental health. Goya Cares is providing schools and community centers with a preventative education curriculum and a free assembly that includes the viewing of the movie Goya Cares Press Pause. Press Pause is intended to raise awareness regarding mental health issues, abuse, and bullying among children, teens, and in our communities. Press Pause is an educational film following 15-year-old Sofia Rodriguez as she navigates adolescence, self-doubt, and an abusive relationship amid her parents' turbulent divorce, set within the cultural context of her Hispanic family. The film explores her discomfort with unwanted attention from her uncle and the pressures of maintaining a facade of perfection in high school. It introduces the Press Pause campaign, promoting kindness and advocacy, highlighted by Sophia leaving a note saying, "You matter," for a bullied peer. The film encourages open family communication about mental health and culminates in Sophia's transformative realization of her right to seek help. Through the power of empathy and small acts of kindness, Press Pause displays the importance of being proactive in supporting one's community and underscores the critical importance of self-advocacy. All right, folks, time for today's Truth Bomb. Oh, I love the Truth Bomb, always uncensored, always bowling. The world is on bended knee. It's Trumpification o'clock in America in real time. So we saw what's going on. First, it was Elon Musk. Elon decided to come over and decide to endorse President Trump. Remember, Elon wasn't always pro-Trump. Elon, at one point, was neither. And then he became Ron DeSantis. Remember, Ron DeSantis actually launched his campaign, his original presidential campaign, with an X spaces on Musk's X. Musk endorsed President Trump after the first assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. Remember that? And then Musk infamously came out and spoke at the next Butler rally. That was Musk. Then Jeff Bezos, well, he refused to allow the Washington Post to endorse either candidate after the paper has endorsed the Democrat candidate for literally decades. Bezos says enough. He saw what was going on. Well, then he also promised to place more conservative voices on the Washington Post editorial board. Wow. Bezos after Elon Musk, but this one really got me. Last week, Bezos and Lauren Sanchez, his girlfriend, went to Mar-a-Lago, and they met with Trump, bended knee, hat in hand. You know what they did? They offered Melania a documentary. And we just found out today, a $40 million payoff to Melania for a Prime Video documentary, again, owned by Jeff Bezos. And then we talked about all week about Justin Trudeau, who flew right down to Mar-a-Lago after Trump threatened tariffs over illegal migration. And then he said, I'll tell you what, we'll make you our 51st state. So Trudeau flies down to Mar-a-Lago. But even more importantly, Trudeau stepped aside. Trudeau knew he was screwed. So Pierre Bolivar, I believe that's his name, is a very conservative who is going to likely take over in Canada. And then you want to add to all this, Mark Zuckerberg bends the knee too. Listen.
The recent elections also feel like a cultural tipping point towards once again prioritizing speech. So we're going to get back to our roots and focus on reducing mistakes, simplifying our policies, and restoring free expression on our platforms.
And you know what that is? That is Meta, Facebook. Remember, they banned Trump. They banned Trump from Facebook over the Hunter Biden laptop story. Remember, now, all of a sudden, Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and now Mark Zuckerberg says he's going to be more like X, more of a free speech platform is Facebook. This should be very, very interesting to see. Folks, the world, Donald Trump gets elected, the world on bended knee, trying to just get close to the man who's the most powerful human being on the planet. Truth bomb. And we are one step closer to another prohibition. Let me explain. First, they make America sick through food and a new damaging food pyramid, feeding Americans tons of sugar, chemicals, and seed oils. Then they make Americans believe that a vaccine would stop the spread of a deadly virus. Forgive me if I don't believe what the Surgeon General now, or most of the medical and scientific community for that matter, has to say about anything these days. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy and too many of his colleagues have done more damage to politicize science and erode trust in public health than anyone ever in the history of mankind. Other than Mr. Flip-Flop Fauci, I'm science myself, Anthony Fauci, Murthy was at it again last week with a headline-grabbing report that recommends alcohol be distributed with cancer warnings. What's he really up to? Let's get into it. So the report warns that for some cancers, quote, evidence shows that this risk may start to increase around one or fewer drinks per day. First, let's zone in on that one word, may. I seem to recall that masks and distancing 6 feet apart will stop the spread. But I also recall that vaccines will stop you from getting COVID and spreading it. Well, will became may stop you from getting it, and then it became won't very likely stop you from getting it. Okay, so back to that report. It says that the link between heavy drinking and throat and mouth cancer is well established, but not for moderate consumption, because 2 weeks earlier, the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine released a review of recent evidence on the health effects of moderate drinking, which is deemed to be 1 drink a day for women and 2 drinks a day for men. It's more than 200 pages of findings that counter Murthy's report, and yet almost no one in the legacy media even reported on it. Those academies couldn't find sufficient evidence to prove that moderate drinking causes oral, esophageal, laryngeal, or other mouth and neck-related cancers. The bad news is it did, however, find a slightly higher risk of breast cancer with very moderate drinking, but it also found a lower risk of death generally and from cardiovascular disease specifically compared to never drinking. But that doesn't even matter to Fauci's partner in crime, Murthy, who seems to still want Americans to think that alcohol use is not just abuse of alcohol, it's a leading preventable cause of cancer in the United States, he says, contributing to nearly 100,000 cancer cases and about 20,000 cancer deaths each year. But as always, with these so-called representatives of science, Murthy's little estimation is based on information that was cherry-picked at random to suit their agenda. Sound familiar? We'll get into that agenda in just a minute. But the report even partially attributes only 17% of these estimated deaths to moderate drinking. And the 609,820 cancer deaths last year, this would mean moderate drinking contributed about 3,400 or about 0.6%. That's right, 0.6%. So Murthy came out, called for cancer warning labels on alcoholic beverages over that 0.6 minute level of possible risk. Misleading to say the very least, but what else is new when it comes to Murthy and his misinformation gang, Fauci? What's the deal? As always, agenda, political agenda, power, politics, money. It's all about that. If you look at Fauci's history of misinformation, it all starts to make a bit of sense, doesn't it? Fauci spread lies about the transmission of HIV before COVID came. Fauci once said that immunity was the key to COVID, but then he changed his mind when it suited him and forced Americans to endure crippling lockdowns, forced useless mask wearing, and insisted on vaccines that didn't do at all what he insisted they would do. And if you questioned it, you were ostracized, fired even. It made Fauci a hero to the media, to the leftists, the be-all, the end-all of science. Fauci declared once, "I am the science." Questioning Fauci was simply not allowed. Politics, money, and worst of all, cover-ups ensued. History will deal with Fauci, that piece of you-know-what. Well, Murthy is part of that very same crew. In 2021, Murthy declared health misinformation a serious threat and warned that misinformation has caused confusion and led people to decline COVID-19 vaccines, reject public health measures such as masking and physical distancing, and use unproven treatments. He outright urged tech companies like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to ramp up their monitoring of so-called misinformation and to alter their algorithms. Think about that for a second. Murthy asked Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and others to follow what we were saying on these social media platforms and alter your algorithm. If you were anti-vax, you got toned down, you got censored in effect. In other words, censor COVID views that he and flip-flop Fauci didn't like. Doctors I often had on shows as guests were good people. Doctors who dared to question the likes of Murthy and Fauci on anything were silenced. They were outcast, even punished. Dr. Robert Malone, Dr. Kelly Victory, Dr. Pierre Corey, just to name a few. Well, COVID contrarians later sued Murthy and other public health officials for violating their free speech rights. And even though the Supreme Court ruled last year in Murthy versus Missouri that there was insufficient evidence to prove that tech platforms censored the plaintiffs in direct response to government pressure, let me tell you, the link was a lot clearer than the one Murthy is trying to make between moderate drinking and cancer. I'll tell you that much. In 2022, Murthy released a report on workplace mental health and well-being, which was informed by the voices of many workers and unions. I know, say no more, politics, right? Well, the report claimed that jobs are the key cause of mental illness and chronic stress. Or maybe it's just because Joe Biden's disastrous economy and no one could afford to make ends meet, just maybe. Maybe sky-high inflation caused severe stress for every single working family and working American. That never crossed their mind, though, did it? Did anyone do a study to find out if high inflation caused stress, anxiety, mental health issues, suicide? Has anyone done that? Maybe we should study it. But never mind, because, it's most important to cover up for the big guy in all possible ways. Maybe lower that inflation. I don't know. But no. So what's Murthy's answer instead? paid family leave, increased minimum wage, and seriously, increasing diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility policies. Right, because nothing says decreasing stress like giving your job away to someone who's far less qualified to fill a race quota. But that's not all. Murthy also furthered the progressive left's ridiculous agenda in the name of science in 2023. He and the CDC prescribed similar left-wing antidotes to help our epidemic of loneliness and isolation, which they made worse with their useless lockdowns. So what's Murthy's answer to all that? To improve social connection. He advised increased access to public transit. Okay, got that. All right, has he ever ridden the New York subway, by the way? Take your life in your hands. People are lighting each other on fire down there. And the one guy who tried to create a social connection by saving lives was tried for manslaughter. Then, Surgeon General Murthy, in line with his politically charged medical agenda, issued an advisory on, quote, firearm violence, a public health crisis in America. Of course he did. The report's recommendations included a ban on ill-defined assault weapons, restrictions on concealed and open carry permits, and increasing criminal liability for shooting a firearm after being attacked if you could have instead safely retreated. He actually said that. You could be held liable if you use a firearm after you're attacked instead of safely retreating. So in other words, finding medical reasons to infringe on our Second Amendment rights, which shall not be infringed on, according to the Constitution. Politics, power, money, control, folks. More government is Murthy's answer to everything that ails us. More government overreach, more progressive left agenda, and in the name of it all, data points are cherry-picked in order to justify it all or to some way add context or to prove their point. So why would anyone take his latest warning about alcohol and cancer seriously? What exactly is the end goal here? We would wonder. Prohibition didn't work back in the 1920s. Is that what they're after? Murthy's also out there in less than 2 weeks now. 2 weeks, he's gone. So was this part of Joe Biden's burn it all to the ground strategy in his final days and weeks? Sure seems like it. Let out 11 Gitmo terrorists, send all our money to Ukraine, Africa. Why not address the actual health problems in America? Like, I don't know, the crap food that our agencies have told Americans were good for us when they're actually making us sicker. Our children consuming sugar, processed oils, artificial ingredients. We now know that sugar consumption is a leading massive uptick in diseases like diabetes, cancer, and heart disease. Why not put a health warning on a label of cupcakes, sugary cereals, plastic packagings? What about that? Somehow that doesn't serve their agenda. And that's why they're so damn frightened of incoming RFK Jr. If Murthy made it less obvious that everything he says is somehow linked to furthering a political agenda, then we might believe even a single word that comes out of that man's mouth. But the history is, unfortunately, it speaks for itself. How about talking about actual public health issues like teenage marijuana use or stopping the massive killer fentanyl from coming into our country, thanks to Kamala Harris and old Joe and Barack Obama? Or PTSD issues and disorders among our veterans who are treated far worse than illegal migrants invading our country, thanks to Joe Biden? Well, politics, power, money, and control. Those kinds of advisories wouldn't get the headlines in legacy media, and they don't advance the left's goal of expanding the government's control over us. Instead, much like his comrade in arms, Fauci, Murthy uses his position to promote himself and also progressive policies. A house of cards, folks. It's a pile of BS. And America and Americans have zero trust in anything these clowns have to say to us. The difference here is that when we lift a glass to drink, we already know that too much of it isn't good for us. We know that because of what we already know and because of the way it makes us feel later. But we were straight up lied to about how good those very crappy foods were for us, for our children. We were straight up lied to about masks, about distancing, about the damn vaccines. Fauci got a reward, his reward for decades of lies. $400,000 of your tax dollars per year of retirement for Fauci for the rest of his life. That's plenty of drinking money right there, I'd say. Fauci and Murthy represent the worst side of the overreaching liberal government. It's straight out of Orwell's dystopian world in 1984, but I'm afraid we know better now. Comedian and musician Henny Youngman used to say, when I read about the evils of drinking, I gave up reading. We may not give up reading, but we certainly give up what they're preaching. So go have a drink, Vivek, Murthy, not Ramaswamy. You too, my friend. Preferably with Fauci. Spare us, Murthy, of your final attempt at relevance as you exit your post for good, and don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. All right, folks, well, I'd like to leave you with something fun, funny, snarky, interesting. Well, this is pretty freaking cool, and it's kind of funny. Take a listen.
$16 trillion worth of assets. We're going to be changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, which has a beautiful ring that covers a lot of territory. The Gulf of America, what a beautiful name.
You know, he's right. He's right. The Gulf of America, Gulf of Mexico. Okay, so it straddles America and Mexico, but we're the superpower here, right? Not them. It does. It runs, we have thousands of miles of coast in the Gulf of Mexico. Give me a break. I love this guy, right? We're going to change Gulf of Mexico, Gulf of America. We'll take Canada as our 51st state. And you know what? We'll take strategically placed Greenland as well to put a bunch of military bases up there. Gotta love Trump. Gotta love Trump. Bolling, out.